One of the days I was watching Ben Television. Ben Television. How many of you here don't know Ben Television? I was watching Ben Television, and this gentleman comes on there speaking. And I comfortably sat, and I was wondering, who was this man? And it wasn't the eloquence with which he delivered, what he was saying, but I could hear his heart. I could hear the honesty, the truthfulness. And I felt, I would love to meet this man one day. So, discarded it. Walked into the place, and I was talking to Bookie. And this man walks in, and all he said to me, "How are you?" And I felt, right. I said, "Yeah, I'm fine," and sort of walked off. Then I came back online, and I sort of Googled this person. And when I started reading, I felt, I think I saw this man on television. And this man, who is our next speaker, was installed at the, if I don't pronounce it well, please forgive me. He was installed as the Oloni of
Eti-Oni.
Eti-Oni, right, and making history as the first Oba of the Yoruba land to be installed in the church with a pouring of oil on his head according to the Bible, and his Christian beliefs by priests of the Anglican Apostolic faith and the Christian Apostolic churches in the presence of family members and kingsmen, the people of Eti-Oni and guests across. What fascinates me about this person was, whilst he was talking, he talked about golf. And he talked about how he was working with young people to develop. But he demystified the whole concept of golfing. And I was listening to the man, and I'm quite admirer of golf players. And I felt, who is this man? And I was so pleased that this morning we have the king in the building who are going to share with us Before I tell you what he's going to say, I heard him speak to Bookie. And whilst he was speaking, I sort of, lazily sort of listened to what he was talking about. And I felt, this man speaks a lot of sense. But I heard his heart. I said, hey, I'm sorry. Please help me welcome His Royal Highness Dokun Thompson, share with us, knowing who you are. Please help him.
Councillor Bright, I'm sure we're here to dream big. Big. Well, he didn't complete the topic. It is knowing who you are in relation to success. So what I'm going to try and do is to try and read out my script so that I don't miss out any points. And then in between, I would confirm exactly what I'm saying based on what Councillor Wright has spoken about. But don't worry, this is my first time of meeting her. We never came together to decide on what to talk about. The Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here this morning and want to thank the organizers of this event, which is a very, very strategic one to helping this particular generation achieve their dreams. And I would say, with humility, I'm only here to share a few words of advice, a few words of encouragement for ourselves, really, so that we can equip ourselves with tools that will lead to success. The interesting thing is, I've been to a number of conferences, I've been to a number of summits. We hear of so many of these kind of organizations. But the truth is, they turn out to be talk shops. The difference in this is that it is targeted at the individual. So, what you take out from it is what you get from it. It's either you turn it into a talk shop or you turn it into a workshop for your own actions to build yourselves for success. There's a saying in Yoruba, I wouldn't say the Yoruba meaning, but I'm sure for the Yorubas here, you would understand the real Yoruba saying. It simply translates to only a few words need to be spoken to people of virtue. Because when they receive the words, they will make sense of the words for complete and total understanding. And it's on this same premise that I have chosen to speak this morning. The greatest challenge in life, I say all the time, is one of identity and definition. Because if you do not cross that hurdle of identity, of definition, every other thing, every other area becomes an obstacle. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that you can never start anything if you don't know who you are. Not to talk of thinking of success. Obviously, the main reason for attending this event is because we have certain aspirations and we've identified certain areas we all want to go to individually, and we're trying to learn from this summit. That's why we're here. I'll tell you something. The dictionary meaning of success. Success means the achievement of one's aim or goal. Just that. This is the way I describe that. Success is attributed to the end of a journey. In other words, when you've achieved your aim or your goal, it means you've been successful. But for me, that is not success. Councillor Bright has confirmed that. Success is the root of a journey. The success or the outcome of any journey is dependent on or determined by your definition of the journey even before you start. For clarity, you can only define a journey when you know who is taking the journey, the value you place on yourself, and you can be rest assured that that journey will end or lead to success. what you do with that success is a different ballgame. Councillor Bright earlier on said, in 5 years, she wanted to be mayor. And people thought it was impossible. She had defined the success of that journey even before she started. There's a big difference between attaining success and holding on to success. The fact that you may feel you've achieved success does not mean that you will be successful. I'll explain what I mean. I'll talk about those in the career line, not businesses now. It can also apply to business. KPMG, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, the time they came up with this announcement. We all know KPMG, one of the top consulting firms in the world. This is the way I wrote it. I said, they have been known to employ the best brains as described then, with a minimum of first class or second class upper degree as the minimum entry requirement. But they only recently announced that their employment is not going to be based on academic achievement, because they realized that those academic achievements do not necessarily translate into success within the organization. For us, a first degree or a 2-1 would have been called success. And your dream is to work with the KPMG or the likes of such organizations. Some other organizations in that kind of, in that sort of, category in terms of consulting, will probably have adopted the same policy unannounced. So with the 2-1, with the first class, you may not even be successful. So, and just like everything else in life, success is a function of identity, of definition, and the value you place on anything or yourself. Many times, people have ideas of businesses or career pursuits, but put several obstacles before themselves that after several years of pondering on it, they never get off the ground. In the case of those going into business, issues of cost, finding customers, marketing, etc. become challenges. And for those who want to pursue certain careers, bring about issues of qualifications, social status, race, etc. But in reality, these are no issues. We either create them into issues or we create them into platforms to move to the next level. What I'm about to say next, I'm not preaching, I don't preach, but I would have to use certain words that you may think I'm preaching. In secular terms, the saying goes, let no one despise humble beginnings. But scripturally, according to my faith, from the scriptures, 1 Timothy 4:12 reads, let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity. When you have faith, it simply means you have self-confidence that once you believe, no matter what it is achievable. Purity means that you define yourself and you do not allow anyone to undermine that definition. And being an example to the believers stands for never looking at anything from the perspective of failure, but from that of success. How then do we define ourselves for the purpose of success? It is said that pride comes before a fall. Yes, that is true when we look at it from a negative perspective. But from a positive end, and you take pride in what you do, you would not only enjoy it, but be successful in it. When organizations are looking at reorganizing themselves, one of the first things they do, to reorganize the organization for growth, for profitability, and stuff like that, they come up with a long set of detailed analysis called the SWOT Analysis. They detail out their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and the threats. Individuals also have similar challenges and limitations. But a proper analysis with a detailed definition of one's identity would enable any individual turn weaknesses into strengths and threats into opportunities. I would give you two simple examples that I love so much. It should be three, actually. The first one was spoken about earlier on. She was here in person to give that testimony herself. And then I'll give the second and the third one. Thank you, Councillor Bright, for helping me. The first story I'll give is, you know why I paused a bit? I looked up again to see that there are actually only a few men here. But this particular example I'm going to give is actually very, very fantastic and very, very key to this sort of environment. Considering the number of women here and the number of men here. It's the story of Anita Roddick. I'm not sure if a lot of people know about her story. The founder of the cosmetic store Body Shop. She became the first British woman to own a business worth over £1 billion in 1990. And I'm sure you don't know where she started from. I'll just quickly read what I copied and then I'll sort of give my own narrative of the story. Anita started the Body Shop on 26th March 1976, simply to create a livelihood for herself and her two daughters, while Gordon, her husband, just like the husbands of everybody here that are married, was trekking across the Americas. She had no training or experience, and her only business acumen was Gordon's advice to take sales of £300 a week. Anita saw entrepreneurship as a means of survival and firmly believed it. And firmly believed it nurtured creative thinking. Running her first shop taught her business is not financial science, but all about trading, buying and selling, and about creating a product or service so good that people will want to pay for it. Testament to her firmly held business beliefs, over 30 years on the body shop is now a multi-local business with over 2,200 stores in 55 different markets. And she always claimed she didn't have any clue how she got there. That I copied from Wikipedia, but I'll give a narration of that later on. The second story I'm going to give is that of the Dummy series book that was first written by Dokun in November 1991. There's another copy, and then I'll give another narrative on that. In 1987, new technologies were popping up all over the place, but computer manuals were dull and difficult to understand. A frustrated customer in a computer store who knew nothing about computers was looking for a simple, basic book about the difficult DOS operating system. Something is suggested like DOS for Dummies. We knew the man's frustration was shared by many other computer users, and we set out to do something about it. Thus, the for Dummies phenomenon began. This was also a copy from Wikipedia. The first story explains clearly how someone who appeared helpless, but knowing herself, not allowing anyone to undermine what she wanted to do, grew a business from her kitchen, using what was regarded as refuse materials to build a global brand that is in the most exclusive shopping malls and high street shops across the world today. It is, for me, a classic example of one who knew herself and defined a situation from a point of success and turned what everybody else saw as a position of weakness to a position of strength. She had 2 kids, and she wanted to keep her family life. She wanted her children to be properly brought up by their mother, and thought the best way was to do her own small business. But she had always had this understanding and idea about safe, clean environment. She went to Barclays Bank for £5,000 to start this business. They turned her down. And then went to the hospitals. These little plastic white bottles that are used for dispensing medicines. That's why till today, all Body Shop stuff is from that same white plastic bottles. She brought them home rather than being in the refuse, cleansed them up, and started mixing her cosmetics right in her kitchen. That was how she opened her first store. From that, she opened the second store. A few years down the line, the banks were all over the place looking for her. It became a PLC, and in the stock market, in I think it was early 90s. That's when I knew the story. She went up to £1 billion, and then went to North America and went all over the world. From a position of complete weakness to a position of strength. The second story, which is the Dummy series phenomenon, tells us that we must be thinking on our feet every time. This is how I describe it. I say it is one of the most inspiring examples of how something that someone saw as a threat became a series that has generated over 250 million copies in publication with over 1,800 titles. A confused customer goes into a bookstore, complaining and looking for a book for dummies. The person that heard that statement was next to him, looking for something else. From that very moment, he took it upon himself to go and start producing the dummy series. That was how the dummy series title started. So someone created an opportunity for someone that he never knew. One of the biggest challenges for those that have career pursuits is knowing the right time to make a move. But I'll say something to you. The moment you find yourself at ease in a position you describe as your comfort zone, you should know it is the time to make a move. Such a move always leads to only elevations. And you know why? Because new challenges will abound and several opportunities for elevation to the next level will be created. They would open up no matter what. Success always has many definitions depending on the individual, the situation, and the period or time in question. But for me, it is always more important to strive to make history than to make the headlines. And I'll tell you why. Life itself is a step-by-step journey. And several people have different needs, different goals, and levels of achievements during their lifetime. The reality is, just like life itself, every record or achievement has an expiry period or date. But what would live beyond one is the love and the positive attitude and influence we have over others, so that when one is no more, the memories remain and exist beyond one for others to share in and learn from. Finally, as a Christian, my main philosophy is always to honor God's laws, to love my neighbor as myself, and to always stand on God's promises. But I'll share a secret with you today. The promise I hold on to the most, it's a promise that at my weakest moment, my strength, that God's strength is made perfect in me. It renews me and tells me there's nothing like failure, but elevation and success, only if we desire it. Thank you.
With a round of applause, please, let's put our hands together for the